Hello everyone, this is Dr. Rivera again. As I said before, if you've done speech therapy with me, you know that I love to play. And even with grown-ups that need speech therapy, even with older kids that need speech therapy, using games and specifically board games are a fun way that we can target therapy goals and that we can enjoy, and it's functional and it's a lot more interesting than just doing worksheets. So what I want to do is show you some of the games that I use during therapy and the different skill sets that they can target. When I use board games, I look specifically for games that encourage naming words, naming verbs, naming adjectives. So things that allow children or adults to describe, things that allow children or adults to use their semantic knowledge. So again, semantic has to do with the meaning of words. So if I give you a picture of an apple, it's not just being able to recognize that this is an apple, it's being able to know that an apple is a fruit, that it's sweet, that it's red, that you can cut it in pieces, that you can eat it, that it lives in a tree, or excuse me, that it comes from a tree. And all of that has to do with semantic knowledge. So another characteristic that I look for when it comes to board games are board games that involve visual attention and scanning, and board games that involve thinking skills. And you would be surprised how many games you can do with that involve all of these skills. Even just taking simple set of dice. Dice are a great way that involve visual attention and scanning, and it's cheap, and you probably have sets of dice at home. And what I typically do is, I hand my kids or my older adults some dice and have them throw it, and then whatever numbers they get, they have to, I have them do different things with it. They can add them. They can take the ones that are the same. So here we have 3 sets of 2. So they can put aside the ones that are the same and the ones that are different. They can put them in order from smallest to largest. They can put them in order from from largest to smallest. So there's a lot of things that you can do with just a bucket full of dice. Another thing that I like are flashcards for older adults. So here's one that's a little bit more functional for the older adults and for the older kids. And of course we have money. They can take out, they can go through these flashcards and count up the money and do some addition. So, and again, this involves visual scanning because they need to be able to visually scan through the card and identify the different types of coins. And it involves math, so it involves thinking skills, so they need to be able to add this up. They can use pen and paper to help them add it up, or even a calculator, especially with older adults with dementia, neurological disorders. Give them a calculator, because again, even with some of the lower functioning adults, just being able to identify the different types of coins and being able to recognize that this quarter means that's 25 cents. So being able to type 25 into a calculator and then type 1 for the 1 cent, and being able to identify all these different numbers and being able to figure out how to plug that into the calculator, all of that is therapeutic. Now, let's go into one of these board games, because I love board games. So I'm going to start with Headbands. And Headbands is a great game. I'm not going to show you how to play it, because you can always Google some videos on how to play these games. With any game that you play, if you're playing it with someone with disabilities or an older adult or any kind of person that's going to have difficulties following the rules, remember that you can adjust the rules. You don't have to play this like the instructions say. So for this game, what I like about it is that it has, well, first of all, it has all these lovely picture cards that I can use to play with either the headbands, or I can use it with other kinds of therapy. And you can do all kinds of things with this. So you can have them, the person has to, of course, put it on the top of their heads, and everybody gets to wear this. And this involves naming. So, but it also involves, again, that semantic knowledge. So the person that is sitting across from you has to be able to identify the category for this. So they need to be able to tell you some clues and descriptive words like, oh, that is something that that you can eat. It is long. It goes in a bun. So it has toppings on it. So it has all of this vocabulary and semantic knowledge that it involves. And then when it's their turn, you give them descriptors. And again, it involves that naming. So they have to name. And if they can't name it, you can always give them the initial sound. Again, you can modify the game. So you can give them the initial sound. So it's a hot, and then they can finish, oh, a hot dog. So you can help them out, or you can give them choices. So after you give them all of the descriptors, you know, that it's long, it goes in a bun, you eat it in carnivals or for barbecues or for 4th of July. So after you go through all of that, if they can't say the word, you can go, is it a hot dog or is it a hamburger? And again, you already told them, and you can remind them, remember I said that it was something that you eat that's long, so is it a hot dog or a hamburger? And they can pick out the correct word. It does have a timer. I don't ever use the timer when I'm doing therapy because that adds a lot of pressure to a lot of my clients, and that's the purpose of these board games are not really for them to be able to do it quickly. It's for them to be able to use their semantic knowledge and their naming. However, if you have someone that's really high level, so if you have an older adult that is really high level, they're able to do this, you can add some complexity to this game and you can make it harder for them by adding the timer. So this is the only time that I ever use the timer is really when I have somebody that's very high level. When I want to add some complexity to the activity, I add a timer. And what I do is that, you know, we try to work on getting better with our timing. Another game that I really like is Picture-rica. So again, you can read through the instructions, but you don't really have to. It does have a timer, which I don't ever use. And for this game, it involves visual scanning. So it has these cards that you can place in a big table. And what I do love about this game is that you can have multiple players. So if you're doing group therapy or just working, you know, doing fun family night, so you can use this game. It has the little color die and the regular one, and it has these cards. What I love about this is that I use this for leveling up. So it has these cards that have the picture, so you can use this with the little kids and they can try to find the scissors in the card. Now, if it's somebody that is older or a child that can read, or an older adult, then it has the actual words. So you have to look for smoke, and they have to visually scan and find smoke. And again, this is great for just regular, you know, just doing therapy with adults and with individuals that can read. And then it has categories. So it goes from easy to a little bit harder, and then when you get to the categories, this is going to be the hardest level. So these are the red cards, and here we have things that you can eat. So they have to, again, use that semantic knowledge to find something that you can eat in this card. So it involves visual scanning, it involves naming and semantics. I love this game. I use it for therapy all the time. And even if you're working with the little ones, even if you're working on speech, So what I do is that what I'll do with the little ones, I'll use these cards with that just have the pictures, and I'll try to find objects with the target sound. So if I'm working on S, well, I use the scissors, and I have them find the scissors, and we'll work on scissors, and we'll say scissors over and over again as we're looking for the scissors in the cards. So again, Picture-ika, great game, and it's something that you can use very easily during therapy. So another one that I love is Boggle. And this is Boggle Junior. I find Boggle Junior is a little bit easier to play. And sometimes I will use the cards. Again, this has really nice, easy cards that I can use for other things as well. Or I can make up my own game with these cards and have that older adult or that older child match up the letters. Sometimes I will just use these nice letter die, and what I love about this is that they're nice and big and easy to see. So for older adults, this is going to be great. We shake it, I give them 3 or 4, we shake it, and then we can try to make up a word. So here we have S-H and N. That is not going to give me a word, but sometimes I will have them switch it around. So I'll put S-H-O together, and I'm like, if I could change this last letter, what would I change it to make a word? Or they can just flip that around and find the W, and now we can make show. And that older adult has to visually plan these that word, and it's really great for therapeutic purposes. It involves visual scanning, it involves cognition, and it involves some words. So again, Boggle, great game. I highly recommend Boggle Junior even with the older adults because it has the bigger die in it. Then another one that I really love that I use quite a bit is Connect 4. Connect 4 is a great 2-people game that I like to use. And again, it involves visual scanning and planning. And you can use it for communication. You can talk with the older person, or if you're working with a child, you can use it for speech. Every time that they say a word correctly, they get a turn putting a piece in the Connect 4 game. So Connect 4, very easy game to use for both children and adults. Another one that I love, and I love this one, is Quirkle. So Quirkle is another visual scanning game, and what it involves is we have all of these different tiles, and I use this game for all kinds of purposes, which is why I have little labels on them with words. So this is gonna be our words. So we have print, zebra, so these looks like these are our clusters, and what they do, they have to, the person has to match by either the color or the shape. So it involves that visual scanning, it involves cognition and decision making. So here, if these were the options, that older adult can pick out, if this tile was on the table, then, and these were their options, they can pick out that blue, and they have to remember if they're matching by color or shape depending on the tiles that are up on the table. So great for different cognitive skills with the older adults, and even with the kids. Kids need to work on cognition as well. And again, you can put little labels on the back because these are just plain black tiles on the back. So I put these white labels on them so that I can write, and you can write words on them, or you can write categories on them and have that adult do different things. So if they pick out, this tile and it says door, they can say door, and you can ask them questions. Where do you see doors? Well, you see doors in houses. So you can do all kinds of fun, therapeutic things with this board game, which is what I love about it. And I separated into little Ziploc bags. I have here R words and clusters. I also have L's, and all kinds of fun words. Another game that I love is Last Word. I use this quite a bit with my older adults. So the reason why I love this game, this is just a regular board game. It has the board, and it has these cards. Now, the cards come in two varieties. There's the yellow cards and the blue cards. The blue cards are subject cards. The yellow cards are letter cards. So what you do is it has the little things that you move around. Whoever gets to the finish line first gets to wins the game. You can do different things with these. So the way that you play it, of course, is that you set up a letter and a subject. So here we have things that are done in the water that start with the C. And you can play it that way, but that's really hard to think of a thing that you do in the water that starts with the C. You can do it that way with people that are higher level. You can even add some complexity by using the timer. Again, this adds complexity because it adds, it vexes their system, and they have that pressure of having to do it, to name these things quicker. But you can also add complexity by just having them do more. So we're going to do 3 things that start with the C that you can do in the water. So a different way to play this, because obviously this is very high level, very hard for some of the kids and the older adults. So another way that I play this, I just pick either the letter cards or the subject cards, and I just take a die. And what we'll do is that if we're doing the letters, we'll put the letter face up on the board, and we'll take the die, and we got a 5. So now that we have to name 5 things that start with a C. And this is a fun way that you can do it, and if they can't name up to 5 things, you can help them, again, by giving them the sound. So something that starts with a C, k, ah, so I will segment the sound to kind of cue them and see how they do with that. Sometimes I'll give them some clues, you know, what's that thing you drive that starts with a C, and they can say car, or I'll give them choices. If they get through maybe 3 of them, I'll give them choices. So a car, a bus, a bicycle, which one starts with the C, and they get to pick out the correct choice. So you can do this also with the subject cards. So again, this is one type of naming, and this is called divergent naming. But then you can do, well, actually they're both divergent naming, but you can do a different type of divergent naming by just having them do the subject cards. So they can name, again, you roll, and here we got a 2, so name 2 things that you can do in the water. So they can say, I don't know, swimming and diving. And again, if they can't say those words, or they can't think of those words, you can give them clues by giving them the initial sound. You can give them choices, or you can even give them the sentence. I'm going to the lake because I love to swim, and they can finish the sentence off. So this is like a fun thing that you can do. Again, you can do subjects or you can do letters. The subject is probably, with the older adults, is probably going to be a little bit easier than doing the letters. So this is a naming task. It's called verbal fluency and letter fluency. It tends to be more difficult for older adults than doing categories. So keep that in mind. If you have somebody that has dementia, doing the subject cards is actually going to be easier than doing the letter cards. Now, the letter cards for someone that's higher level are going to be a lot of fun. So that's something that you can use. But if you have somebody with dementia that's lower level, I would just stick to the subject cards. So that is it for last word. And that is it for our board game section. Again, you can do all kinds of fun things. Games are functional, they're fun, and they really target a lot of these cognitive semantic language skills. So I highly recommend them, and you can purchase these types of games at your local store, or you can try Goodwill. I get a lot of these games from Goodwill, and you can also try to get them online. They're fairly cheap online as well. And that is it for our board games, everyone. Please leave a comment and tell me what you think, or if there's any other games that you would like me to review.